Charles Bronson names the 7 actors he respects most. Charles Bronson was born Charles Dennis Buczynski on November 3, 1921 in Ehrenfeld, Pennsylvania. He was the 11th of 15 children born to Lithuanian immigrant parents, and his childhood was filled with being poor, hardship, and the tough life of a coal miner's family. Growing up in the coal mining areas of Pennsylvania, Bronson knew the struggles of back-breaking hard work from a young age, often working in the mines himself to help support his family after his father died. These early experiences gave him both the physical toughness and the quiet, serious presence that would later define how he looked on screen. During World War II, Bronson joined the United States Army Air Forces and served as an aerial gunner. He flew in combat missions in the Pacific Theater and was given medals for his service. This military background not only made him tougher, but also gave him a sense of discipline and strength that would carry over into his acting career. Like many young men of his time, the war shaped how he looked at life and gave him the quiet strength and intensity that became his trademark. After the war, Bronson began exploring acting, eventually studying under the GI Bill at the Pasadena Playhouse in California. His rugged looks, highlighted by his sharp cheekbones, piercing eyes, and quiet demeanor, made him stand out in an industry filled with polished leading men. At first, he found work in minor roles, often cast as thugs, villains, or soldiers. His early screen appearances included small parts in films such as House of Wax 1953 and Apache 1954. These small roles gradually built his reputation as a dependable character actor, and before long he was working steadily in television as well, appearing in popular shows like Bonanza, The Twilight Zone, and Gunsmoke. Bronson's true breakthrough came when he began to star in action and war films that showed off his tough, no-nonsense persona. His performances in The Magnificent Seven, 1960, where he played Bernardo O'Reilly, and The Great Escape, 1963, where he portrayed the claustrophobic Polish prisoner Danny the Tunnel King Walensky, cemented his reputation as a serious, capable actor. These roles demonstrated his ability to bring humanity and quiet intensity to otherwise serious characters, making audiences worldwide love him. By the late 1960s and 1970s, Charles Bronson had become an international star, especially in Europe, where his rugged individuality connected deeply with audiences. Films like Sergio Leone's epic Once Upon a Time in the West, 1968, elevated him to iconic status, with his portrayal of the harmonica playing gunslinger considered one of the greatest roles in movie history. His lean frame, weathered face, and commanding silence gave him an aura of mystery that made him unforgettable on screen. In America, his fame peaked during the 1970s with the Death Wish series beginning in 1974. As Paul Kersey, an ordinary man turned vigilante after his family is attacked, Bronson tapped into the era's worries about rising urban crime. The character became a cultural phenomenon, and though critics debated the morality of the films, audiences flocked to see him dish out his brand of justice. Over the course of his career, he played the role again in multiple sequels, solidifying his place as Hollywood's ultimate avenger. Beyond his vigilante roles, Bronson appeared in a wide variety of films, including The Dirty Dozen, 1967, Hard Times, 1975, Mr. Majestick, 1974, and The Mechanic, 1972. Each performance carried the same hallmark of restraint, discipline, and understated intensity. Unlike many actors who relied on flashy dialogue or exaggerated mannerisms, Bronson's power came from his presence alone. He could dominate a scene with a simple look or a clenched jaw, conveying volumes without saying a word. As the years went on, Bronson continued acting, though he gradually stepped back from the spotlight in the 1980s and 1990s. His health began to decline, and he eventually retired from acting in 1999 after appearing in the television movie family of Cops 3. Charles Bronson's personal life was marked by 3 marriages, each of which played a big role in shaping the man behind the screen legend. His first marriage was to Harriet Tendler, whom he met in Philadelphia while pursuing his early career as an actor after World War II. The two married in 1949, a time when Bronson was still struggling to establish himself in Hollywood. Harriet, who later became a radio talk show host, stood by him during those challenging early years when acting jobs were hard to find and the couple lived modestly. While Bronson supported his family with various odd jobs alongside his pursuit of acting, their marriage produced 2 children, and despite the difficulties of Bronson's career, they managed to build a life together for nearly 2 decades. However, as Bronson's career began to flourish in the 1960s and the pressures of fame increased, their relationship grew strained. After years of trying to balance his rising stardom with family life, the couple ultimately decided to separate, and their marriage ended in 1967. Just a year later, Charles Bronson entered into what would become the most defining relationship of his life. On October 5, 1968, he married British actress Jill Ireland, who had previously been married to actor David McCallum, Bronson's co-star from The Great Escape. Bronson and Ireland quickly became one of Hollywood's most admired couples, often appearing on screen together in films such as The Mechanic, 1972, Breakout, 1975, and Love and Bullets, 1979. Their chemistry was obvious both on and off the screen, and they built a strong family life. Together they had a daughter, and in addition they adopted another child, reflecting their commitment to raising a large, loving household. Their marriage lasted over 2 decades, a rarity in Hollywood, and was seen as a model of loyalty and devotion. Tragically, their union was cut short when Jill Ireland died of breast cancer in 1990. Bronson, who had been deeply devoted to her throughout her illness, was devastated by her loss, and friends noted that he never fully recovered from it emotionally. It was not until 8 years later, in 1998, that Bronson remarried. His third wife was Kim Weeks, a former employee of Dove Audio, a company specializing in spoken word recordings. Unlike his highly publicized marriage to Jill Ireland, his marriage to Weeks was more private, with Bronson seeking comfort and companionship later in life. Though their time together was relatively brief compared to his earlier marriages, they shared a close bond, and Weeks supported him through his final years as his health began to decline. The couple remained married until Bronson's death in 2003, ending their 5-year union. Charles Bronson, the rugged star of countless action films and westerns, was never a man of wasted words. Known for his tough exterior and steel-eyed presence on screen, he often gave short, blunt answers in interviews. Yet, when asked once about the actors he respected most in Hollywood, he opened up with surprising honesty. The list he gave not only revealed his admiration for certain performers, but also provided a glimpse into the values that mattered to him: grit, authenticity, and dedication to the craft. The first name Bronson mentioned was Lee Marvin, his co-star in The Dirty Dozen. Bronson said Lee was a soldier, plain and simple. He didn't just play a tough guy, he lived it. He carried the war with him, and that gave him a weight most actors can only dream about. When he walked into a scene, you believed him because he believed himself. Bronson respected Marvin's no-nonsense approach to acting, his refusal to sugarcoat anything, and his raw presence that often dominated the screen without effort. Next came Steve McQueen, with whom Bronson had a famously competitive friendship. Bronson explained, "Steve and I had our differences, but I respected him. He had that hunger in his eyes. He fought for every role like it was his last. He made the camera his ally, and he had that quiet intensity you can't fake." Though their rivalry was legendary, particularly when both actors were up for leading man parts, Bronson admitted that McQueen's talent and charisma pushed him to be better. The third actor on Bronson's list was Clint Eastwood. Bronson admired Eastwood's ability to control his own career and build a reputation as both actor and director. Clint was smart. He knew what the audience wanted before the audience did. He had patience and he had vision. He didn't waste time worrying about being liked. He just worked. And the work lasted. Bronson, who had spent years in supporting roles before reaching stardom, saw in Eastwood a model of persistence and artistic independence. Bronson also named James Coburn, another fellow tough guy actor who had co-starred with him in The Magnificent Seven. Coburn had a style all his own. He was laid back, but underneath you could see the fire. He didn't try to steal a scene, but when he was there, you couldn't take your eyes off him. That's real talent. For Bronson, Coburn embodied the kind of understated strength he admired. Never showy, always authentic. Another respected figure for Bronson was Gregory Peck. Although the two men rarely crossed paths professionally, Bronson held deep admiration for Peck's integrity both on and off screen. Gregory was dignity. Every role he carried himself with honor, even when the story was dark. He made acting look effortless because he carried the truth inside him. You can't fake that. Bronson, often pegged as a rugged anti-hero, saw in Peck the epitome of Hollywood's classic moral strength. He also included Kirk Douglas, whom he regarded as one of the hardest-working men in Hollywood. Kirk never stopped. He had a drive, a fire that burned in every picture he made. He wasn't afraid of looking rough or ugly if the role needed it. That kind of courage is rare. Most men want to be pretty on screen. Kirk wanted to be real. Bronson admired Douglas's fearlessness in playing flawed characters and his relentless energy. Finally, Bronson named Robert Mitchum, a man he felt captured the essence of screen presence without effort. Mitchum didn't act. He just existed. That's the hardest thing of all. Being natural, being real, letting the audience come to you instead of forcing it. He had that mystery, that edge. I respected that more than anything. For Bronson, Mitchum's casual, almost lazy style was not a lack of effort, but a mastery of it. Proof that the camera loved honesty more than theatrics. In the end, Bronson's list of 7 actors revealed his own philosophy of performance. He admired toughness, authenticity, quiet intensity, and above all, truthfulness. These were not men who relied on tricks or vanity. They carried their roles like they carried their lives, honestly, directly, without apology. For an actor like Charles Bronson, who built his career on raw presence rather than words, these 7 stood as the rare few worthy of his genuine respect. Charles Bronson, one of Hollywood's most enduring and iconic tough guy figures, passed away on August 30, 2003 at the age of 81. His death occurred at the world-renowned Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, a hospital often associated with the final days of many famous figures from film, television, and music. Fans around the globe mourned not only the passing of a legendary screen presence, but also the end of an era in which Bronson had defined the gritty, stoic action hero for generations of moviegoers. For years, speculation swirled about Bronson's declining health. And following his death, various sources reported that he had died from pneumonia and complications from Alzheimer's disease. However, closer examination of his official death certificate revealed a somewhat different story. According to the document, those widely circulated causes were not listed at all. Instead, the certificate gave a more detailed account. Bronson's immediate cause of death was respiratory failure, a condition that often means the body's final struggle for breath. Underlying this was the presence of metastatic lung cancer, an advanced stage of the disease where cancer spreads from the lungs to other organs and systems, weakening the body's ability to fight. In addition, 2 other serious conditions were cited as contributing factors: chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, a progressive and debilitating lung disease often linked to long-term smoking, and congestive cardiomyopathy, a form of heart failure in which the heart muscle becomes weakened and enlarged, losing its ability to pump blood effectively. These combined illnesses paint a picture of a man who, despite his on-screen image of being indestructible, had endured a long and difficult battle with multiple health complications in his final years. Bronson had been known for his rugged lifestyle and the intensity he brought to every role, but away from the cameras, his body was clearly worn down by decades of physical strain and health struggles. His death, therefore, was not sudden, but rather the culmination of a prolonged decline that many close to him had witnessed quietly. After his passing, Charles Bronson was laid to rest far from the glitz of Hollywood, in the peaceful and rural setting of Brownsville Cemetery in West Windsor, Vermont. This location was deeply symbolic of the man himself, private, understated, and far removed from the glare of the spotlight. Vermont had been a place of retreat for Bronson, offering him the serenity and quiet he craved in contrast to the intensity of his professional life. The choice of this final resting place reflected both his deep personal connection to the area and his lifelong preference for simplicity over spectacle.